Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming along. Thanks for Ben and all the organisers from Agile Cymru, right? So, firstly, I have to apologise. I saw a poster on the wall last week, and it's for Meatloaf, right? It's for Meatloaf, but it was a fairly small venue in Birmingham. I thought, really, Meatloaf is playing that venue? And as you got closer to it, it said underneath, a tribute to, in like tiny little letters like that. So, the talk today was going to be from myself and from Paul Taylor, who's the head of engineering at ASOS. Unfortunately, unlike myself, Paul Taylor felt that he could come this morning and talk to us via Paddington. And the points, after he left Paddington for an hour, stopped working, which meant he had to go back to Paddington. And there was then insufficient time for him to be able to get here. So what that means is, I know half of the presentation. Right, okay? So you're going to have to bear with me. Right, we have done it before, so I've got an idea about what Paul says. So I'll talk a little bit about me. And forget Paul, he's a splitter. He owes me many pints of beer for this. So, I'm a certified Scrum professional. I come to these events because I believe in transforming the world of work. Why? So, has anyone heard of the Whitehall report? Anyone heard of that one? One person? One person knows what I'm talking about. Okay, there was a very long study of civil servants looking at the effect the organisation has on people's well-being and the length of their life. Okay, and there was a follow-up because the first report was 10 years, 67 to 77, and involved, I think, a lot of people. I think 50-odd thousand people, and they just didn't believe it because the output of the report was basically that command and control structures shorten people's lives. Now, this sort of keys into Dan Pink's stuff about autonomy, mastery and purpose. If people are aware of Dan Pink, hands up, who's heard of Dan Pink? Wow, not as many as I thought. Okay, there's a really good video on YouTube about Dan Pink's Drive book. I definitely recommend that you have a look at that. Basically what he says is that the things that we think motivate people don't motivate people, right? But also there's three things that do and make people happy and healthy, which is having autonomy, mastery and purpose. And this isn't in my presentation, so Paul will be saying to me, what are you talking about, Nigel? So anyway, the Whitehall report, command and control structures that don't allow autonomy shorten people's lives. Well, as somebody who's been in management and leadership roles, I don't really want to shorten people's lives. Actually, I'd probably quite like to make them longer. I'd quite like to have happy, positive people and a really healthy workforce that can, be good for them and be good for customers and be good for everyone, really. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I promote Scrum. It's an agile methodology. It's something that I believe in. Who I'm working for at the moment are these guys, BJSS. If you're sort of southwesty, they've got a big office in Bristol. They've got offices in London and Nottingham and Glasgow and New York and Manchester, in no particular order. They're an agile software consultancy, about 1,000 people. Everyone that I've met there has been brilliant, and that's as much as I'm going to say about them. But yeah, they're cool, right? So what are we going to talk about today? Ninjaneers. Do the thing. All right, as I was saying to someone earlier, we did this, Paul and I put this presentation together. We had a great presentation, how to run a crew of ninja engineers. And somebody just came up to it, his mate Charlie, hi. And he said, well, surely that's ninjaneers, right? We're like, we're not worthy, right? Brilliant. So, ninjaneers. Let's talk you through the little intro slides. So I'm going to take you on a journey like a Time Lord because it's in the past. So we're going to travel back in time to a time when Paul and I worked for the same business, and Paul was hit with an absolute critical business issue, right? He was approached by one of the directors and said, right, we need this fixing. We've got peak trading in 6 weeks, by the way, so it needs to be done by then. Go on, go do it. So he had to bring a team together from within the business, point them in direction, and get them to deliver something very quickly. Now, that sounds kind of plausible and not too difficult. The reality of the situation is to actually bring the team together, to remove all the obstacles that are in their way in order to deliver something that works in 6 weeks. It's quite a challenge. So how do we go about doing it? Let's go. Paul has the clicker as well. I had to borrow this one. Going in the wrong direction. We went on a journey. We told them what the important stuff was, and then we picked up at the end and said, have we succeeded? Sounds easy, right? Okay. I need to manage people's expectations a little bit. So I need to know what kind of people you are. So could everyone stand up, please? I know you just sat down. It's hot. But so could you sit down if you're a Scrum Master? Oh, lots of Scrum Masters. Good work, guys. Got another Scrum Master there. OK, that's probably about half the audience. What about product owners and BAs? Those kinds of people? Couple? What about the agile coachy types like me and Roger coming next? OK, one of those. What about project managers? One sort of project manager? Oh, a couple of project managers. OK, who have we got left? What do you do?
Developer, engineer.
Software developer. Yeah, engineers was the second one I should have mentioned. Engineers, sit down. Yay. Right, who have we got left? Jess?
I'm a recruitment consultant.
Recruitment consultant.
Slightly different team.
OK, that's cool. Take a seat, please.
I do positive psychology stuff.
OK, very interesting.
Doing a gig tomorrow, so just interested in
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. I can see your badge.
Engineering manager, so could be an engineer and a manager.
OK, sort of software engineering, managing type things. OK, that's great. Let's click. OK. This is the journey bit that I was talking about earlier. So, very important to set a goal for where people are going. And I'll be talking quite a bit about goals and setting a vision and all that sort of stuff. How we go about doing that and enabling collaboration. So it's all very well bringing a group of talented people together. And I've worked with lots of good teams. I'm working with a really good team now. But actually, to get them from being really, really great at their job individually to a cohesive team that can deliver something together is quite difficult. So we'll talk about that collaboration piece. If anyone's got any questions along the way, do interrupt. Just stick your hand up because Paul talks much more than I do, so we'll probably have some spare time. Maybe some Q&A at the end as well. Right, setting the goal. So these are the guys, some of the guys that were on the team. I'll talk about vision, but I'm going to talk about goal first, because they're kind of on a different level. So I was working with a team, it's a startup, it was in the probate industry. So we wanted to create an application which made the probate process a little less painful, right? Because it is quite painful. And actually, we wanted to make it so you could do a lot of it yourself, so that you don't need a solicitor, right, and make it cheaper. So the goal for the team, it was like a pretty short-term project, about 6 months, was to build an app to make probate process accessible, cheaper, and less painful. So that's a pretty easy to understand goal, and it focuses everyone in the same direction, rather than kind of individuals going off and doing their own thing. When we were doing some beta testing, we had one of the beta testers who was going through the probate process, and he used the app alongside of a charity that the business has set up to give advice at the same time. So you could like call a helpline as well as use the app online. And he said it was like a guiding light in the dark. So for me, that became the team's vision. We put it up on the whiteboard, so as soon as you walked in the morning, a guiding light in the dark was the vision for what we need to do. The goal was to develop the app and make people's lives a little bit simpler, a little bit easier. It's critical to get those things right and shouldn't be underestimated. And we've got a couple of BAs, right? BAE type product owner people. That kind of communication to the team is really useful. I mean, I was reading a blog article yesterday that they had a picture of a busy street with lots of people in, and a picture with an empty street, and with a building at the end. And they were saying, you know, your goal remains the same, but without the vision, you'd never get through all the people that are in the street. It was New York or somewhere, which I thought was a really good point. So there, guys, they're having a good time. So on this subject, so quotes are can be a bit trite. There's a couple of quotes in the presentation, but I think they're good ones. So General Patton knew what had been known for probably even 100 years by then anyway, that a large mechanised army cannot be controlled in the way that you control kind of cavalry and infantrymen, right? You can't set out a plan and say, we are going to do this. You have to set a goal, which is, guys, we need you to do whatever the goal is, hit that target. How you get there, how you do it, is basically up to you. And within boundaries, okay? Within boundaries, you can make decisions, and you can do what feels right for the squad at any moment, and essentially creating small self-organised teams which get stuff done. So people that say sort of Scrum is a bit soft, it's a bit woolly, well actually, you know, there's quite a lot of military applications for the same sort of theory and practice. Team. So like I said, you've got this bunch of people, and you need to get them collaborating. You need to get them working together. How do you do that? I do it like this, okay? And I'll explain this in a minute. This is stolen, or I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. The Agile Fair there's a group called the Agile Fair a couple of Agile coaches came up with this way of bringing a team together. Now, this is only a partial implementation of it, but it's the really good bit. And it's the bit that terrifies developers. So the reason it terrifies developers is it involves coloured pens and glue and glitter and drawing, right? It's my firm belief that everyone can draw, right? It's my firm belief that everyone can draw circles and squares and triangles and stickmen, and that's all you need to do this. So you've got a group of strangers, right? You bring them together in a room, and you want to get them talking. You want to get them starting to understand each other, what their motives are, what their values are. And I would ask the team 2 questions. Firstly, define quality for me. What does that mean? So in a typical kind of, has anyone not been in a retrospective type situation with Post-it notes? Has anyone not done that? Everyone's done it. Okay, cool. So post-it notes, one word on each post-it notes. What does quality mean to you? And then you can see in the background here, we throw those up onto the wall and do something that I call theme storming. Although I was going to say theme storming, copyright Nigel Steane, like ninjaneers, except that I looked it up on the internet this morning, and there was a book written in 1994 called Theme Storming. And it's to do with how you organise curriculum for kids' schools. So I can't claim that one. But I call it theme storming, right? So we get the post-its into themes, different areas, so similar things that people have put together. And we vote on those 3 dots. Everyone gets 3 dots. And we decide what are the most important things to us about quality and about the concept of team, right? And then split the teams in half, split the group in half and say, right, you guys are going to create a poster which embodies those things. And you guys are going to create a poster that embodies, so one would be quality, one would be team, right? And we give them 20, 30 minutes to do that. Very important, drinks, sweets, fruit, if you want to be healthy. It's supposed to be fun, right? And usually people do get into it. And I've had some excellent posters. You can't really see those very well there. But yeah, I've had pizza delivery boys. We've had football matches for the teams things. We've had penguins came into one of them, I think. I think that's a Lego brick that they're on there. So there's kind of fitting together of things and a good quality product. Lego was quite big at the time, it was a few years ago now. I mean, it still is big. Yeah. And then at the end, what I get the team to do is sign those posters. So what I'm actually saying is, right, you're in this, right? This is about us as a team. And we put those posters up on the wall in the office. And I've done that everywhere I've worked, regardless of how conservative the office might be. It provokes discussion, and people will come over and they'll say, well, what's this? The other thing that I'll talk about later is the team, getting the team to have its own name, but I'll touch on that a bit later. Any questions on that?
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Just on the participation bit,
Yeah.
have you ever experienced any objectors to participation? Have you had to overcome certain, barriers to get that dialogue flowing? How have you done that?
I certainly have. In fact, very recently, I was working with a team, and Paul Goddard is here today, and he's speaking tomorrow, and I very much recommend you go and see him. So he is like the Agile king of improvisational comedy, right? And so I was running a session for a new team, and the beginning of the session involved some improv. So basically, what time is it, Ben? You got time?
Plenty of time. You can meander. 20 past.
20 past. Okay. So let's have 2 volunteers. Let's do it. Why not? 2 volunteers? Come down to the front, guys. Right. This is what we were doing. So you just want to stand at the front here.
You don't have to stand by the fan.
Okay. So Ben could do some timing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah? So ideas from the crowd about what you would like these gentlemen to do. So give them a scenario. Sorry?
Make a cup of coffee.
Make a cup of coffee, right? Just wait 2 minutes. I need 2 more volunteers.
Long lost lovers who haven't seen any of it much over 20 years.
No, we'll do the cup of coffee, but I need 2 more people. Actually, you can sit down if you don't want to stand up. Just 2 volunteers. Yeah, 1. So this is like Tony.
I'm Tony, yeah.
Okay. Need somebody to help. Garant. You'll help. Okay. You're going to come over as well. Good work, Tony. Come on down then.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is, you guys are going to improvise making a cup of coffee together, Garant and Tony.
Okay.
You guys are going to be their voices. Right? You get it? Make sense?
Okay, you just go.
Just go. You've got...
Separately make a cup of coffee, or?
It's entirely up to you. We've got 1 minute.
We're doing? I talk now, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so take your kettle and boil it with water.
So you're talking to each of the guys, ask each other questions.
Clean in a cup. Just on, when it's boiled, get yourself a cup. Or, no, you need to get a coffee first. Get your jar of coffee and put a spoonful of coffee into the cup.
So be Garant's voice, what's he saying?
Sorry, Garant's thinking. We're waiting for the kettle to boil.
What's he thinking?
For 3 minutes.
What's he thinking about while the kettle's boiling?
I watched kettle and then the water into unscrewing the coffee lid, taking a spoonful of coffee out, putting it into the cup, and some sugar. No sugar.
2 minutes.
Closing the coffee jar, pouring the hot water into the cup, taking the cup, blowing it so it's cool, drinking it faster, thinks it tastes like crap.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. That's it now. Okay, the scenario that caused the person to say they would not engage with this activity was removing the, I don't know what you call it, you know, the lumps of lard that you get in the sewers. There's teams that have to go down there. Fatbergs. Right, removing fatbergs from the sewer, that's what somebody came up with. What I did with that person, they're a really highly skilled engineer. What I did with that person was respect their wishes and say, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. And I stepped in and I played his part. Subsequently, we did another activity, which is the Kanban ball game, which is a great game. Anyone ever played that? You have to pass the ball around. Yeah. He fully engaged with that, and he was quite happy to do that as a team activity. So in that instance, I just let that go because I felt it was the right thing to do. I was very, very new to the team. I didn't want to push that guy into doing something that he'd felt uncomfortable with. So with other teams, if I know, so I had another team, one of my teams at ASOS, the lead developer there was a similar character in a lot of ways. And he didn't like the feeling of being sort of out of control. So as long as he understood the motivation behind doing the activity, he was quite happy to do it. So that's what I would do, is, you know, we're doing this and we're doing this because. And most people, 99% of the time, if they understand why you're doing something, then they're quite happy to join in. But I'm open to suggestions, because it'll happen again, I guarantee it. And I digress. So, team identity that I was talking about. Why is that important? Because people like to be tribal, right? They like to be part of something. They need that identity to help them pull together and to bond. And it's fun, right? So recent teams that I've worked with, team names have been Rooks, Rhubarb, Bagheera. My current team is called Team TARDIS. It happens to be some of the letters of the application that we're working on at the moment. It also is a way of identifying that team and in the wider business in a way that's understandable. So I've worked with other companies and they've kind of got a top-down approach to this. It's like, your team orange. I'm like, I don't even like orange. Your team blue, your team red. Which team was doing that? Oh, it's team orange. Well, who's in that? Well, I don't know. But if it's team Rooks. Oh, okay, yeah, I know who's in Rooks. And they've got Rook things all over their wiki, and they've got little rooks that in their room. So when I walk in there, I can see, oh yeah, this is Team Rooks. It's about identity, and it's about, you know, making sure people know who you are, really. And it's a bit of fun. And work should be fun, right? Yeah.
How do you balance that with completely understand why you do it?
Mm.
Then there is the group dynamic of us and them, and you've got Team Rooks, and everyone else is an arsehole. You know, and there's that team dynamic. How do you get that team also to have an identity that fits in, so you can connect to maybe the higher purpose of the wider team that you're in? How do you manage that?
So I'll touch on that later. But basically, it's this bit, right? It's fun, and it's nice to be part of the gang, but it's not a football team, you know. So just because one team is Team Rooks and one team is Team Bagheera doesn't mean that we can't talk to those other team and learn things from them and sit with them. It's a good point. You do have to be careful with it. And I have seen that happen, that identity becomes too strong when it sort of then becomes a bit more of a divisive thing. But if it's a bit of fun, right, and we take it in the spirit that it's for, then it's nice. It's a good idea. Collaboration. So I've talked a bit about collaboration already, and I'm talking about collaboration in the team rather than the wider collaboration we're just talking about. So we're getting into a part of the presentation which is more about leadership now, and the sort of behaviours that you should exhibit in order to put a good team together. And it's quite a tricky area, right? There's some studies that say you should start directive and then you should back off and then you should completely back off. There are other people that say you lead from the back of the room, right? My natural demeanour is more servant leadership, more coachy sort of style. And I think that does help in terms of collaboration. So stepping back with a team is often the most powerful thing you can do as a leader, to give that space for somebody else to step up and step in, assuming that they're ready for it, right? So safety nets for people and safety in general on teams is important. This is a Paul slide. Just going to see what he says about it. Excuse me 1 minute. I've got this feeling that, oh, here we are. Oh, we've got his favourite quote. Right, his favourite quote, you can write this down. I don't know where he got it from though. It says, "We herd sheep, we drive cattle, we lead people. Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way." And that's the different styles of leadership, isn't it? Lead me, as in the team. Follow me. If I need to lead, then I'll do it. Or, yeah, get out of my way because you're stopping us doing what we need to do. So, let's just see. Okay, we're getting on to a really interesting area now. So, this is what I was saying about a safe pair of hands, a leader. What is interesting is the way that behaviour through a business gets amplified. So most businesses, even the flattest businesses, so as I said, I work for BJSS and they have a really flat structure. It's really good, actually. But even then, there are implied levels of hierarchy between people. And as a leader, people pick up on your behaviour patterns. Now, it's Mike, isn't it? Yeah? Is it Mike? Yeah, Mike mentioned earlier about the dangers of team identity, right? That you can end up with a team of football hooligans who are actively sabotaging other teams because actually their team's best and we've got to win, right? I've seen that within a business. In fact, I've seen it in more than one business, particularly where you get satellite offices. So when you have like a head office and a satellite office, or you've got distributed teams in different offices, it's quite often a problem. And the only way to break that down is by having people like, in fact, Scott Amberlin has got a really good blog post about this. And what he talks about is making sure that you have ambassadors with the teams, basically. So when you've got teams that have to work together, you've got those bridges between the teams. You make sure those teams, those people on those teams have met each other, right? So quite often companies use tools. We use a lot of Slack right now. So Slack's great. But if you're watching Slack and you're watching the teams interact, and you've got two different teams on different sites, you bring them together, and everyone's happy, and you're like, yeah, let's have a drink. Oh, yeah, you know about X, you know Y, yeah, I used to work there. And you sort of build those bridges. If you don't do the work to keep reinforcing that, what happens is, on tools like Slack, you will start to see the comments, especially when the pressure builds, get a little bit sharp, right? Get a little bit like, I might say to people, if that person was sat in front of you, would you have said that? Probably not. So it's really important that as a leader, you're an exemplar, that you don't do those things, that you don't say, I don't know, if I was in a software development team in Cardiff and there's a team in London, you know, that I'm not the guy in Cardiff saying, those guys in London are idiots, right? God, we're much better than them, aren't we? Look, look at this code. Isn't this code terrible? Right? Why do they even do that? You know, when actually they're under time pressure, they've had to create some technical debt, right? There's reasons why things have been done in a certain way. So ambassadors and keep an eye on your own behaviour, that's only one example. As leaders, any little dysfunctions in a leadership team just create cracks through the business, which can be really damaging. You need to watch that. That word exemplar is a Nigel Baker, Agile Bear guy, who's going to be doing his talk tomorrow. If you haven't seen Nigel before, go and see him. He's about 100 times more entertaining than I am. Well worth it. Okay. So, I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about trust. Trust. That's my daughter. That's Elizabeth. She's 9 years old. We were at a music festival. We were in a field. It was all great. Everyone's dancing. My daughter's this tall. Everyone else is this tall. And she can't see a thing, right? Except, and I'm like, Elizabeth, why don't I put you on my shoulders? No. I don't like shoulder rides. Like, shoulder rides are scary. Shoulder rides are high up. I don't like it. I just like, no, okay, let's let it go. A few minutes later, I promise not to drop you, right? You'll be fine. Let's try it. So she got up on my shoulders, and this was recently. This was May, actually, seeing a great band live called Dubrovka Collective from Eastern Europe. She got on my shoulders. She was happy as Larry, except she was up there a bit long and her legs went a bit numb, so I put her down after about 3 or 4 songs. But there's a level of trust there, right? There's a level of reassurance which says, it's going to be okay, right? You've got to trust me on this. Now, there's a chap called Patrick Lencioni who wrote a book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Anyone read it? It's good, isn't it? It's awesome, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think I've got it with me. No, I'll have to do it in my hotel room. Anyway, and what it is it's a book whereby he talks about a fictional situation, right? So He's talking about a new managing director coming into a company, coming into a leadership team which is severely dysfunctional, and it's damaging the business. But actually, they don't want to change it because they're doing all right. All right, they could be a lot more successful, but they're doing okay. What does this managing director do? What steps do they take in order to create a better leadership team? So you read through it, and it's the majority of the book is the story. And I'm not going to ruin it for you, because then there's no point in reading the book. At the end of it, he says, and you can use this model in your own business. And there's a questionnaire in there and stuff you can do as well. The model's really, really good, because it makes you think about trust within the team and how to build it and what happens if it goes wrong, and also the symptoms of it going wrong. So in the middle there are the 5 dysfunctions. Go back. That up there says the role of the leader on the black bit of the screen. So this is basically actions that you'd take. So absence of trust. So this is very common. Obviously, you bring a new bunch of people together. I mean, why should I trust Mike? I mean, Mike looks fine, right? He's an agile. He's happy. He's got the happy T-shirt on. Why should I trust him if I'm working with him? Don't know who he is. Why should I trust Jess or anyone else in the room? I'm quite a trusting guy, but many people aren't. The problem is, if the trust isn't there, then people hide things. They're like a bit scared oh, I've done something wrong, but actually, don't really feel like I can say anything. So I saw a really good or bad example of this, depending on which way you put it, with a developer who made a change. And actually, this wasn't his fault, because there was a problem with the process. Shouldn't have been able to do this. But he was made a change that was supposed to be going to the test environment, and it went to the production environment. Oops. Right. So he knew that he had made this change, and the bells and the sirens went off on the alerting and monitoring, and he stayed quiet, right, for about 3 hours. Well, the rest of the team ran around like crazy lunatics trying to find out what the hell had gone on. That's the upshot of not having trust in the team. I mean, ultimately, it was daft because, it was through a CI pipeline. So we tracked it down in the end, whose change it was. Because of the culture of the business at that time, he was not held up and pilloried. He was not taken aside, and he didn't have a good talking to by somebody. We changed the process so you couldn't just check something in and put it straight onto production, because that's not something that should have happened at all. So it's process improvement. But he could have saved us a hell of a lot of time by just going, sorry. Fear of conflict. Oh, sorry. So absence of trust. A good way as a leader, so we're talking about leadership, role of the leader, to fix that is by being the person that goes first, and you basically have to open up, right? You have to expose some sort of vulnerability to the team in order to start building that trust, and say to them, yeah, I screwed up. I did that. A bit hard. I went wrong there. So for me, I've had a long and illustrious career managing teams, right? Well, Scrum teams, 10 years. I've done some pretty bad things, especially early on in my career. I had a member of one of my teams die, which was pretty bad.
As a result,
So, not directly as a result of anything that I did, but I certainly wasn't cutting the guy any slack. Right? I certainly wasn't understanding that he was under a lot of pressure. I certainly wasn't building trust with him so he could have explained to me what his situation was. I didn't know. Right? That's quite bad. That's one of the examples that I use with teams because it's kind of twin-pronged. It's kind of me saying, look, I screwed up, and it's like, that's guilt, right? That's guilt there, right there. But also, establishing trust is really important. Fear of conflict. So fear of conflict. With Scrum and Agile methodologies, the inspect and adapt model is really, really important, obviously, right? Obviously, because it is. So it's simple. It's largely based on, well, some of it's based on Edwards Deming, which is an easy thing, like it's plan, do, check, act. Plan, do, check, act. You can do planning and doing. You can't do checking if people aren't prepared to raise issues, right? You just kind of checking things are fine, and everyone says, that's fine. So I've seen symptomatically, if you're working with a Scrum team, who's actually actively working with a Scrum team right now? Okay, quite a few people. So you might have seen this, or be aware of it anyway. If you're using retrospectives with the classic quadrant of what went well, what didn't go so well, what we learned, what still puzzled us, or something around that stop, continue model. If you've got everything in the what went well quadrant, right, you've got like 30 post-its in the what went well, and you've got 3 in what didn't go so well, and you've got maybe 1 or 2 others. That's a big symptom of a problem, because things don't usually go that well, right? It's reality check, guys. Also known as a happy bubble by some people. And then you have to do something really hard, right? As the facilitator, Scrum Master, delivery manager, Agile coach, whoever's in there, you've actually got to try and uncover the difficulties that the team is going through, right? In a sensitive way, obviously. But effectively what you are doing is mining for conflict, is trying to bring out what areas can we improve. Fear of conflict leads to lack of commitment. I'm not really being very honest about how I am with the team, not really being honest about how things are going, not really that committed to delivering the work, because actually it's teamwork and I'm more interested in what I'm doing. It leads into avoidance of accountability, which, from a Scrum team point of view, so we've got a sprint goal, we've got a sprint commitment, we're going to do this in 3 weeks, yay. End of 3 weeks, oh, I went in half. Well, I did half. It's all right, isn't it? Did half. The next sprint, we've done just over half, a bit more, a bit less, maybe. Don't really care. So people are starting to very much move in the personal direction. And it leads to inattention to results. And this whole area is difficult so I've worked in organisations which have a traditional HR structure with an appraisal, a 12-month appraisal. I'm going to give you feedback, Richard, on how you've done over the last 12 months. I'm going to tie that into a bonus. Yeah, I'm going to do that as well. So I'm going to look at your performance, and I'm going to tie that into a bonus, right? In fact, I'm going to do that to everyone in your team. I'm going to set them different objectives. So you want $5,000 in 6 months, you have to do this stuff. And guess what? That's nothing to do with what you've got in the sprint, right? And then you get a group of people, 8, 10 people, all working on their own personal projects and trying to do as little as possible on the sprint, the actual team commitment. So the way that I got around that in that organisation was actually to get everyone together and say, right, what do we want to achieve? I don't know, we want to improve our code quality, we want to bring this CI pipeline in, we want to bring this new technology in. Okay, we're going to have team goals. And then on our HR forms, which we'll be filling in, all the things, all these objectives, our 5, 6 objectives that we have to do, our SMART objectives, they're going to be aligned to those team goals. So actually, we're all moving in the same direction, right? I can commit to what I'm doing with the team, and I can still get my $5,000 in 6 months. Happy days. Which comes into collective outcomes as well, right? There's loads. Obviously, you know, this is a book. This is a book. It'd be really good to read it. And now I'm going to get onto one of Paul's slides, so let me move on. Is there any questions on that stuff? Just on the back of that then, so what do we think are characteristics of getting it right? So instead of dysfunctions, functions. So what do high-performing teams do? Have you got any suggestions on that? No ego in the team, yeah.
Enthusiastic.
Deliver on time, enthusiasm, yeah.
Constant learning.
Yeah.
They do challenge each other in a respectful way.
Yes, which is very, very important. Supportive. Yeah,
Not afraid to call out the crap.
absolutely.
Moving silos and knowledge there.
Knowledge sharing.
Silos and knowledge share. So
Yeah.
not one person.
Yeah,
knowledge.
absolutely. Bus factor, which is, yeah.
Also, go back to the point earlier about disruptive team members. Whenever there's a good team member has been a constantly disruptive person, I've never got a sort of problem that the team has. And the team will actually see that disruptive influence in the team and say, hey, we're in a good thing here, and actually do sort the problem out, won't we?
Yeah, really, really good. Look out for it. If you're scrum masters, or even if you're just in the team, say to people, you know, talking about positive conflict and being supportive, the best teams have those ideological battles, and then afterwards they go down the pub and everything's fine.
I level banter in the team as well.
Yeah,
When you're there and there's a lot of banter in the team, you know that the bond doesn't gel anyway.
What to watch for as well is the back channels. So I've banned my team from creating Slack channels with partial members of the team in, just because it just encourages people to sort of have little conversations on the side, and that, you know, I think that can sometimes develop into negative behaviours. Actually, I say banned. What I say is you must invite everyone, and then people can uninvite themselves, is the way that I do it. So that we have got channels with less than the whole team, but everyone has been invited at the beginning of the channel to make sure they get the choice. Trust, 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 trust. This is Paul's slide. What does he say? He says trust is fundamental. I think I agree with him. Oh, okay. So levels of trust. So trust has changed. So we used to trust banks, right? And we used to trust John Lewis, probably do a little bit, right? But now we trust people like Uber, and we trust what our friends think on Facebook, and we trust crowdsourced reviews of products, right? So there's been an interesting kind of evolution around, as a society, who and what we trust has changed. Do we trust the police, or do we trust Trustpilot? I don't know. Depends on the individual, but as groups, we've certainly moved in a direction where we put a lot more emphasis on that, on the sort of crowdsourced type models, and on private businesses who own our data. It's an interesting kind of paradigm shift So we've all been in this room for how many minutes, Ben?
50.
50 minutes. How much trust do you think we have? Should we do a little experiment? Yeah? Would everyone like to get their mobile phones out, please? I suppose I should do it as well, shouldn't I? Really? Okay. Would everyone like to unlock their mobile phone? Yep. Do you want to hold them up? They're all unlocked? Unlocked? Right. Would you like to pass your mobile phone to the person next to you? Just pass it to the left or the right. Right. Ben, you can time. You've now got 30 seconds with that person's phone. Do you want to have a look at their photos? Do you want to send some emails? Texts? How many seconds left, Ben? 15 seconds left. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pass phones back. It locked itself. Okay. So, how did that feel? Interesting, isn't it? Interesting. So, it's uncomfortable. How else did people feel?
I don't have anyone to look through.
Yeah. So,
Sorry.
go on.
I just say how very interesting question. Same on this phone. How many people don't mind your partner looking at your phone?
Good question. Good question. So, would you let your partner would you just open your phone, give it to your partner and say, do what you like?
Yeah.
Mine has it all the time.
Yeah? Okay.
Our family all know each other's PIN codes.
Well, there you go. No secrets. I think we've...
So if we're all kind of saying we trust each other to an extent, I don't know anyone's characteristic competencies and integrity. I haven't learned that from you. So are we saying that model is an old model?
I'll talk about that in a minute.
I don't think that's also a respect thing as well.
It is. I think that because we are all here and we are all at this conference and we're all interested in the subjects that are promoted here, I think there is a degree of respect and there's a degree of, understanding what you're holding in your hand. Right? It's interesting how it makes you feel, though, right? Okay.
Fair, if it was your mate, you'd have gone on Facebook and say, oh, I'm big shit. Something like that.
What if it was your mate, you just ripped the phone straight
Or you'd have texted someone, dropped someone an email and expressed undying love or something like that for a laugh.
Yeah, certainly. So that's the same as that, people leaving their PCs unlocked at work can backfire. Someone thought they were sending a very funny email from my desk, from my PC, to the rest of the team. But actually, it was a group name. They got it wrong, and because I walked in the room, they panicked and sent it. And then I was approached by one of the program managers at ASOS to ask when I was going to take him out to dinner, because that's what it said, which is great. Anyway, so this model here, what I was going to say about this is some things, you can do something with and some things you can't. So competency type things you can coach people on. So you can build in this area. Character type things you can talk to people about and you can counsel them. But effectively, that has to come from within, right? You can't really coach someone into integrity and honesty. You might try and shame them into it or apply peer pressure, right? But it is something inherent within them. where by skills, knowledge, experience, obviously you can gain those, and they're coachy things. Okay, another quote about planning, and just getting us back on track, because we probably haven't got much time left, Ben. 5 minutes. Okay. So you brought this team together. Let's go back on the road. Brought this team together, you've set goals, you've got them collaborating. You've set a plan. How useful are plans? Plans are useless, right? And actually, very, very important. I've shown this slide many times in different presentations, and I found out something interesting last week. It wasn't him. It was Dwight Eisenhower who said that. Trust. How many people have trusted me about that? I don't know. Okay, encouraging the team to self-organise. In this instance, we brought them in from other Scrum teams, right? They know what they were doing. They're all senior people. We did story mapping. I don't know anyone who's ever done this. So this is great analog. I had a great discussion with someone earlier about Jira, right, and VSTS. In fact, it was Andy, one of the other speakers last night. Cards are fantastic. So in this high-pressured environment, we get all the stories written down on cards, okay? So the horizontal represents the journey. The vertical represents how important these things are in it. Have a look at story mapping. And have a look at Muriel Rukeyser as well. She was a feminist, American feminist poet. But she said, you know, the universe is made of stories, not atoms, which I really like. The scientists, some technology people probably wouldn't like that. But I like that, right? She's great. She's got some really good poetry. Visualize everything. Okay, so electronic systems, Jira, VSTS, we love them, right? We've got teams all over the place. We want to do enterprise level reporting. You know, we want everyone to do the same thing. I've used VSTS and Jira and other things, lots of electronic tools, target, process, iScrum I used, some other thing. Right, nothing is better than this. Nothing has lower transitional friction. Nothing radiates information like a Kanban board. I recommend teams have the sprint on one side and the backlog on the other. So you've got short-term view, long-term view. One of those flippy boards is good, except the cards fall off sometimes. Yeah? It's all about the team knowing where they're going.
With detail then when you're using the board. So obviously you're going to have your heading and your story. It's got detail within the story.
Yeah. So let's talk afterwards. Let's talk afterwards because I'm running out of time. I've talked quickly about the Deming model, which most Agile things are more or less based on. So measure what you do, improve what you do, iterate, round and around and around. Be careful with measurement and metrics. They're great, right? But it is true that you improve what you measure. And the flip side of that is the things that you're not measuring will not get the same amount of focus. It's common sense, but as Nigel Baker says, common sense is not that common. So be very, very careful what you're measuring and what you're doing with that information, because you will focus the team in the wrong direction if you're not careful. Don't forget to say thanks. So that was the ASOS team. Yay, happy. They delivered it. They did what they needed to do by peak trading. I don't know what year it was a few years ago now. But they pulled it together. And it's important to kind of like have that moment and remember to say thank you to people. On employment surveys, it's one of the number one things that people say is when you ask the question, when did your boss last say, or another member of your team last say thank you for the work you did? Oh, I don't know. In bad teams, it can be months. In good teams, it's measured in days. Really good teams, it's measured in hours. So I would like to thank you all for participating. And if you have any questions, I will be around and about, but we were probably about to get kicked out of this room, right, Ben, shortly? Yeah. Okay, I can take questions if anyone's got a question.
I was interested on the question gentleman here said about using the Kanban board as a flip chart, flipping it over, where do you put the detail? Would you use an electronic tool as well?
So it's enough documentation, isn't it? It depends what you're doing in your context. If you can work with cards and writing on the back of cards and post-its, then that's fine. If you need more information, then obviously wikis are great. Mike Cohn says that a user story is a signpost to more information. So, you know, you can definitely take that concept and work with it. So I'd usually have the story points, who's doing it, acceptance criteria on the back, any dependencies on the back. If we are using an electronic system, which generally speaking probably are, then stick the JIRA ticket number or VSTS task number on there as well.
Just to avoid duplication, obviously, we started using a physical board because we're cross-site, we also use Trello.
Yeah.
And then what you find is obviously you're putting details in Trello, then you're moving it, and then you're relating to a board, and then you might forget one on there, and so it can get a bit confusing if you're not.
Double accounting is an issue when you're using both. But I think that's.
But the other way is worth it. I think there's a do need electronic store, and you've got a physical board up to date, move count around, it's not overhead, it's not like visual impact. You can something keep up to date once a day, it's fine.
Yeah, true. Who were the volunteers? Forgot, volunteers get a prize. Have a dig around, a few different things in there.
Cheers.
Here we go, the volunteers, here we go. Ben.
Cheers.
Haribo. Oh, he's gone. He's run away. Do you want to take a prize for him? You always give it to
I'll
him.
take it for him, yeah. Oh no,
Do you think he wants one of those? Isn't it a troll?
he might. Yeah.
There's some Haribo in there if you do.
Yeah, he
Huh?
loves that.
I didn't realise they're still done, trolls.
Yeah, they are. You can have a troll. There you go. All right, thanks very much, everyone. I'll be around. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.